Now, when you think about technical analysis, it's going to show you a chart and the price trends in that chart of the asset. But you also have to think about technical analysis as understanding the behavior of the market participants. Now, we've seen over different market cycles and asset classes that charts and prices are determined by people's beliefs. And humans have the same greeds and fears no matter what the asset class is. Whether you're trading the stock market or the crypto market, those fears and greeds will always be the same. So over time, we've used technical analysis to give us not so much a prediction, but more information as to where prices might be heading next. So there's a couple simple chart patterns that I want you to know about. And I'm going to start by the double top and the double bottom. Now, in a double top, a price has been reached, then the price drops, hits that same price again, and falls. That's a double top. The double bottom is just the reverse of it. The next simple chart pattern is the head and shoulders reversal. And this happens when prices reach a new high, they drop, and then they fail to break that previous high. So it looks like a head and shoulders. And I'll show you what that chart looks like in a second. And lastly, you've got the rounding bottoms. Now, this chart is an accumulation period. And it's usually when there are buyers moving into the market that aren't letting the price decline. And it usually turns into a big bull move in the chart. Now, let me look at a couple of these charts to show you an example of what I'm talking about. The first chart we're looking at here is a chart of Bitcoin versus the dollar. It's a 15-minute price chart on the Bitfinex exchange. Remember, each of these candles here represents 15 minutes in time. And what you'll notice is that in this short-term period, prices sold off and hit a double bottom. The price of Bitcoin dropped below 9,300 right here. It rallied and then sold off and hit a double bottom. So anyone who's trading this noticed that the downtrend looks like it was reversing. So they came in and bought and pushed the price higher. That's indicative of a double bottom. Now, a double top is exactly the opposite. And this is, again, a 15-minute chart of Bitcoin versus the dollar on the Bitfinex exchange. So in this case, the price of Bitcoin rallied to 10,500, then it sold off, and then bounced back to 10,500, forming a double top. And then immediately after that, you had a huge drop and a downtrend. And so that's a double top. Next, we've got a head and shoulders. And this one has been pretty predictive in the Bitcoin markets. And there's a couple things in head and shoulders that I want you to notice. First, when Bitcoin breaks to a new high up here, this is considered the head. Now, as it sold off and it bounced again, it formed this pattern that looks like a shoulder. That's why we call it a head and shoulders. Here's the head, and here's the shoulder. Now, the key level here is the neckline. And the neckline starts from the first bounce. So when Bitcoin bounced at 12,774, it formed the neckline. And you'll see once this neckline was finally broken, prices dropped very rapidly. So this is a $3,000 drop in Bitcoin. And then it bounced. But what's key about this chart is that what once was support at this neckline then turns into resistance. So you can see there was a battle going on here with the buyers and sellers. So this was support during the neckline, but once it was broken, it became resistance. Prices were unable to get above 12,774. Another chart of Ethereum head and shoulders. This is Ethereum versus the US dollar. You've got a one-day time frame for each candle. And this is on the Coinbase exchange. And this is the head, and this is the shoulder. And you can see prices drop down here to this neckline. Same thing that we saw on the Bitcoin chart, where when prices finally dropped below the neckline, there was a big flush followed by a rally. However, this area here at 983, which was once support, now becomes resistance. So people who were once buying at this point are trying to sell because they were buying at support, accumulated Ethereum, and now they have some to sell at the same price. So that is a classic head and shoulders pattern. Now lastly, I want to show you what a rounding bottom looks like. Rounding bottom is indicative of prices moving higher. And you can see there's a little bit of a curve to this as it's trending higher. And what we've seen with rounding bottoms is when they finally break to a new high past the old high. So the old high here happened in June of 2017, when the new high in this Bitcoin versus dollar was finally broken in December, you saw what's known as a parabolic move. So as soon as the previous high was broken, then buyers quickly rushed into this market and sent the price higher. So those are just a couple simple price charts that you need to be familiar with when you're looking to analyze the crypto markets.